Could somebody please respond? Then maybe we can start. Could somebody respond if I am audible? Okay, so I think we will assume that I am audible. Yes, thank you, Devalji. So, namaste everyone. Welcome to the Madhyas Darshan English channel. Today we will be presenting the session 5 of the translation of Jeevan Vidya Ek Parichay book. Before starting, I remember the original writer and propounder of Madhyas Darshan, Shri A. Nagraj, and express my gratitude towards him. So today we will continue from the point where we had left last time, and after that we will summarize this chapter by going through some of the concepts that have been developed in this chapter by reading again some of those portions. Okay, so I will now start reading the translation of Jeevan Vidya Ek Parichay, session 5. So, upon having acquired the right understanding, it is on the basis of analysis or vision activity in Jivan itself that we can identify all of the things that we require. And once we know our requirements, we can do their production and thereby experience prosperity. As we experience prosperity along with resolution, we become orderly in our living. Therefore, we need to first make our students self reliant by imparting them the right understanding. This will beget the tendency in them to evidence that understanding in their families and after that participate in the universal orderliness. It is human beings' great fortune to have the opportunity of evidencing themselves at these three levels. The human being's need and inquiry for right understanding is the only basis for their realizing this fortune. If such a need arises in the human being, then it would be easy for them to evidence themselves by studying this proposal attentively. So finding answer. We tried finding answers to the questions: what is the right understanding? What is the entity that understands? What is the content of right understanding? The entity that understands is Jivan itself. The content of right understanding is existence, Jivan, and humane conduct. Understanding existence involves understanding the development, that is Vikas, and it involves understanding the physical and chemical formation deformation in existence. The physical and chemical formation deformation activities are present as material order and bio order in existence. All of these entities are continuously undergoing change from one form to another. For example, trees and plants dry up after a while and take the form of soil. This is called transformation. This transformation process is continuous in the physiochemical world. In the same way, bodies of animals and humans get formed in the womb, and when they die, their bodies transform into soil, air, and water. In the human being, Jivan is the only entity which understands. Jivan, as an entity, always remains constant. The existence is understood by Jivan in human being in the form of coexistence only. It is only with the coexistential outlook that we become capable of orderly living in every situation. Orderly living is the universal aim of the human being. Orderly living itself is happiness. The problems from disorderly living result in suffering of Jeevan. The suffering of Jeevan results in its searching for resolution. Jeevan has an inherent tendency to search continuously, not just Jeevan. This continuous search is present in the insentient atoms also, which itself is the cause of transformation in the physiochemical world. Everywhere in nature, there is a tendency to search for getting into the coexistential orderliness. The atomic particles, too, due to this tendency, keep constituting in the form of atoms. The atoms, for the same reason, keep constituting in the form of molecules. The molecules, due to the same tendency, keep constituting in the form of molecular bodies. In this way, human being can understand the presence of the infinite planets and celestial bodies in existence. The diversity in the insentient nature is basically due to difference in the number of particles constituting the insentient atoms. These distinct atomic types, established as definite statuses of nature, are the basis of diversity in their compositions. For example, many kinds of vegetation are basically many compositions of distinct atomic types. These compositions and their constituting elements are established statuses in nature with innate purpose of participating in the coexistential orderliness. The substance making these compositions is also a magnificence of being in coexistence. Entire existence is present, evident, and radiant on the basis of this magnificence. The human being is also a part in this very existence, inseparable in coexistence. Human being cannot run away from coexistence. The more they tried to run away, the more miserable they became. Every human being wants to be resolved in their mind. The search for it is present in every human being. Humans have the natural right to search for orderliness around and about them. It is when they realize that all their living is based on whatever they could find from their search, then they understand the meaning of their free will. The way to becoming happy is only objective. I'm sorry. The way to becoming happy is only one, that is realization of Jivan's objective and human being's objective. Right understanding results in Jivan's realization of its objective. Jivan, upon becoming fulfilled, sustains human beings' aim of resolution, prosperity, trust, that is fearlessness, and coexistential orderliness. This itself is the evidence of orderly living. Orderliness in humankind provisions realization of these four aims for every human being. Such a human tradition will have beneficence, that is upkar, for one another. Imparting the right understanding to another itself is upkar, whereby coexistence gets actualized in the form of human tradition. Orderliness is to ensure presence of coexistence in the human tradition. If anything happens against coexistence, then it gives rise to disturbance in the order. Human being in delusion can cause any kind of disturbance due to their imagination and free will. Their disturbing the natural balance of the earth is its evidence. Human beings were ignorant about consequences of their actions, and when they came to know, it had become too late. It is due to their imagination and free will that human being always remains engaged in search and exploration. The search and exploration becomes successful only when these are for discovering the order in existence, when these are for achieving resolution, prosperity, trust, and coexistential orderliness. The right understanding results in the human beings achieving the following qualities. First, self confidence. Second, respect for human excellence. Third, balance in talent and personality. Fourth, social in behavior. Fifth, self sustainability in occupation. The above can be called as good qualities. Human being becomes social with these qualities. Evidencing the right understanding in living itself is learning. The human being who understands existence can be called as learned, while exploration for getting into coexistential order is innate to every unit of nature. The learning is something which takes place only in the human being. Human being has four activities: knowing, believing, recognizing, and responding. Among these four, the recognizing and responding activities are there in nature apart from human being as well. Everything in nature is recognizing everything else, and that is how they are responding to one another. An atomic particle too recognizes other atomic particles, which is how they cohabit and work together to evidence conduct of an atom in coexistence. This mutual recognition and response is present from atoms, molecules till planets in the same way. All units of material order, bio order, and animal order also recognize and respond to one another, and thereby they evidence mutual complementariness in the same way. The human being could not be satisfied in the purview of recognizing and responding, and doubts arose in them. The human being has two additional activities: knowing and believing. Human being becomes assured from their recognizing and responding only when these are based on their knowing and believing. Knowing and believing is only of meaning or purpose of everything. Human being can become social only in the course of knowing and believing purpose of everything. In the absence of knowing and believing, one can neither become social nor evidence the coexistential orderliness. One reason behind present wretched human condition is also that their knowing and believing could not happen despite their having the potential. In this state, the human being remains wretched themselves and they make others also wretched. Human beings have brought the earth to this wretched condition because of their own wretchedness. In my view, we need to sharpen the aspect of knowing and believing of the human being. Every human being needs this sharpness and it is ever close by. Learning is to evidence the right understanding in the form of living tradition. Jeevan's activities can basically be seen in five parts. Each of these five parts has two activities in the state of being, that is sthiti, and in the state of motion, that is gati. For example, every Jeevan has the want, which is two activities: one taste, that is aswadan, and second selection, that is chayan. What we select for our taste is the selection activity. We taste, that is also an activity, and the part of Jeevan where these two activities happen is called man. The human being hypothesizes in many ways for all the things that they may need for their taste, and they have accumulated all kinds of things and are still busy in accumulating more. So far, we have been accumulating things only to taste luxury. The more we lagged in understanding, that is, knowing and believing, the purpose of luxury and possession, the more we helpless we became in their pursuit. I'll read this line again. The more we lagged in understanding the purpose of luxury and possession, the more helpless we became in their pursuit. We could not find the point of fulfillment of luxury and possession, that is, suvidha and sangrah, anywhere. The need of the objects of food, shelter, and utilities is to fulfill the practical purpose of nourishment and protection of body. The need of object of telecommunication and transportation is to fulfill the purpose of social progress. All these things have become available to the human being, but they could not be satisfied. It's a huge irony. Other two activities of Jivan are comparison, that is Tulan, and analysis, that is Vishleshan. Jivan performs analysis based on whatever is its level of understanding. All analyses are meant only for recognizing purpose of things. Human purpose is to produce evidences of resolution, prosperity, trust, and coexistential orderliness in their living. The opposite of purposeful living is to keep pursuing enjoyment and indulgence, where human being won't find any anchor anywhere. The present science concludes that after some time, entire human race will get annihilated and this earth will get destroyed. That is bound to happen if we continue with this thinking. In reality, human beings' emergence on earth took place only after it had become fully enriched and habitable for human being. Slowly, it offered the opportunity for awakening to the human being who had been living in animal consciousness. Instead of becoming awakened, the human being moved towards consumption and indulgence. It is because of their direction of consumption and indulgence the human being moved towards endless pursuit of luxury and possession. This earth doesn't have enough material that could fulfill everyone's lust for luxury and possession. This lust will, somewhere or the other, result in the human being's ruination. Therefore, all things of luxury and possession need to be aligned with the human purpose, that is, towards nourishment and protection of body and social progress. The alignment of material resources towards social progress leads to creating conditions for participation in undivided society and universal orderliness. As the human being goes about living based on these premises, they become able to realize resolution and prosperity along with happiness and peace. In this way, the aim of Jivan is only to evidence human awakening in existence. Its success is based on the fact that orderly living is every human being's natural expectation. Until there is delusion, the order in humankind is based on fear and temptation, that is, bhay and pralobhan. After awakening, or upon awakening, the order in humankind is based on recognition of values, evaluation, and mutual fulfillment, for which there is a need for development in human understanding. So with this, we complete this chapter. So as I had said, this chapter we will actually summarize the whole chapter uh, after this by reading some of the sections from this, and maybe adding some explanation where it is necessary. So this chapter was about Jeevan and uh, what it is as a reality in existence. So we'll do a recap of some sections, and as we have some time at hand, and hopefully with that we will become clearer about uh, about the ideas that are presented here. So one of the important things that to note here is that what Babaji or Shri A. Nagraj is presenting here, or has presented here, is a result of his realization or revelation. It is not out of deduction from some ancient scriptures or some modern Western philosophies. It's not out of deduction. It's not a deduction result. Okay, so it's not out of some survey of many people's experience. It is out of what he had done, the realization, or what was his revelation. He has actually put that into words. So we need to study his works without mixing these proposals with our prior notions, right? So prior notions, whatever we have, was essentially whatever was available in the tradition, and what he has time and again has been saying, that whatever has been there in the human thought is coming from one of the two ideologies, that is the idealism or materialism. So he has positioned his this darshan as vikalp, or the alternative of both these ideologies. So this needs reminding again and again, or we miss the point that he is making, and the status quo then continues. So therefore, so let's now begin looking at the main points that he had made. So as I was saying, that this chapter is about Jeevan. So in this, initially he started by saying that Jeevan is neither material nor is it non-material. Jeevan is an atom, a constitutionally complete atom. Constitutional completeness means neither expulsion nor insertion of particles happens in this atom. So that is the basically now the consciousness is so he's saying that this is an entity, an atom, the way you have sodium and hydrogen, etc. atoms. So he is saying that Jeevan is also an atom. It is a constitution of certain number of particles, right? So he is it's a new discovery that he's making, that the consciousness of human being is actually originating from an atom, and human being is a combined form of Jeevan and body, right? So that is the basic proposition that one is really making. So he's basically saying that uh, the pulse of consciousness is different from anything of flesh and bones. So we can also feel ourselves that the thinking that is happening is, we can't actually say that I am this thinking is resulting from the bones and blood and things like that. One can say that yes, I have a hand, but it's not that I am that hand, right? So it's not possible to say that, right? So it's not just a language limitation, but a reality also. It's not just a language construct, but the reality also is that Jeevan is distinct from body, right? So let's move on to the next point. So one thing, another thing that he basically says is that Jivan actually is the is at the basis of expressing consciousness, which called sanchetna. It is combination of two things. One is intelligence, and second is sensitivity, sangyaniyata and samvedanshilta. So these two things combined are the expression of consciousness. So he says that sensitivity, the aspect of sensitivity is essential for recognizing and responding, right, to the senses, right? But that alone is not enough. Human being needs a definite intelligence. So in the absence of having a definite intelligence, one is having an imagination, and imagination is essentially indefinite thought, or thoughts that are not yet taken to the closure, or thoughts which are not yet resolved. So those medley of thoughts are inconclusive, or they are not resolved. So that he's saying is the root cause of all the problems in human living. So intelligence is about bringing order to the human thought, and for that there are certain powers of Jeevan which are dormant, which need to be activated, right? So those are the things that he basically is the proposal, that it is possible to activate these dormant powers of uh, of Jeevan, with which basically the sensitivity aspect or intelligence becomes under control of the intelligence, that is samvedanshilta becomes in control of Sangyaniyata. And that is how there can be an order in human living. Okay, so let's move on to the other point that he is making, that all human beings are one, that is united when they are right, and they are many when they are wrong. So clearly, he is saying that there is a right and there is a wrong. So it's not right and wrong, is not a matter of opinion. Right and wrong, there is something called an absolute right and absolute wrong. And with intelligence, which is with the understanding of existence, that is all that is the order of the existence, one basically stays in the purview of right, and without the understanding of uh, the orderliness of existence, one is helplessly in the purview of wrong. And but still, even despite being in the purview of wrong, one is with an expectation to be in the right. Okay, so that is the link for one who is in the wrong to basically move towards the understanding and be in the right. So it's possible for human beings to be united when they are in the right only. Then after that, he is there is one paragraph in which he says that whatever systems we build while keeping body at the center and ignoring the Jivan will only give rise to disorder. Okay, so that is another thing that is very important, that because Jivan is the real doer, right? If we actually in the absence of understanding, Jivan identifies itself with body, and with that actually all kinds of the thinking and doing that happens based on that, which he calls is the body centric worldview. It is results into all kinds of problems and disorder. Okay, so because he says that bodily activity has to change again and again, while activities of Jivan have constancy. Then he talks of these four aspects of human living, that is right understanding, that is samajhdari, and honesty, that is imandari, responsibility, that is jimmedari, and participation, that is bhagidari. So those are the four things that he says that human being evidences. Okay. So then he says that value of the human being is realized upon understanding Jivan, upon understanding existence in the form of coexistence, and upon becoming confident in humane conduct. This itself is called the right understanding. So he's basically saying that there is such a thing as right understanding, that the aspect of intelligence needs uh, has the tendency, or there is a natural inclination uh, to move towards the right understanding, because that is the destiny, so to say, of human being, to move towards the right understanding. Okay, so right understanding, the word in Hindi that we use for that is samajh. So there is one other paragraph here where he says there is one small formula: right understanding results in happiness, while wrong understanding results in suffering. Human history is nothing but a story of struggle in their pursuit of happiness. So far, the whole world has kept on struggling with the idea that happiness could be achieved by doing penance, or by doing yoga, or by renouncing the world. People have tried these things as well, but they have found no evidence which could result in tradition of happiness. Okay, so those are the tall claims, or rather the claim of this darshan, that this is the way that humankind has actually struggled, but they have not yet found the thing, found the right understanding that he is talking about here. Now, then one other paragraph that we see over here is that first step of right understanding is about understanding existence. Existence is in four orders. The first is material orders, which is soils, stones, gems, and metals. These already evidence definite conduct. Second order is bio order, which includes all trees, plants, vegetation, and medicinal plants. And these two are evident in their respective definite conducts. The third order is the animal order, which comprise of sentient beings other than human being, like animals, birds, etc. These two evidence order according to their respective essences. The fourth is the knowledge order, within which only the human being is there, who is still awaited to evidence orderliness. Now think for yourself, the most developed order is lagging behind all the others. So this is another thing, that he basically sees the nature or the world not as an illusion, like as much of the mystical religions would actually call it, but he says that this is a reality, and this reality is in the form of an order, and this order is actually graded, right? And there is a and this order is graded. The first grade of order is the material order, then the next grade of order is bio order, or the plants, vegetation, etc. And then comes the animal order, where you basically have Jeevan and body together, and finally human being is recognized in the form of a knowledge order. So this is a major departure from both science and also the mystical religions, which basically recognize human being as yet another kind of animal, right? So here he is saying that human being is not an animal at all, right? Human being is an entity of knowledge order, who has the aspects, all the aspects of that are there in animal, plus there are certain more which are not there in animals, and which is what makes them the human being. And they have the need for knowledge, they have the need for understanding, and it is only with understanding that they can become orderly. Another thing that he is saying is that all other things are orderly in their own way, right? So we need to recognize that there is order is the basic nature of things. Okay, so this is very different from the way science looks at things, which looks at there being struggle in the nature at every level, right? So here he is saying that no, there is no struggle, there is actually harmony, and there is a successive harmony, from harmony giving rise to second level of harmony. Okay, so that is another thing that we are studying in this. Then we we learnt about the word sanskar here. So he's saying that what is sanskar? So he says sanskar is conclusive acceptance of the right understanding. Okay, so this is something that one acquires. Okay, sanskar is something that one acquires by from the tradition. So one learns and then acquires the values, how to live by them, right? So this is something that Uh, so the way that an animal lives is and what the word for that is inheritance, right? Or the in Hindi we call it anushangiyata. How does one generation follow the acts of the previous generation? Right. So in animals it is by the way of species. So there is species inheritance there. But in human beings, it is clearly evident that human beings are not species inheritance uh, people, because you can see that a person who is a doctor, his daughter or son may not be the doctor. He or she can be a lawyer. He or she can be a pilot. So clearly the traits are not transferred uh, uh, by way of body, right? So this is something that one actually learns. So human being basically is a knowledge or an entity, and everything that they do is result of their understanding and learning. So therefore human being has the possibility of understanding, and they have the need for the same. Okay. Okay, I want to read this paragraph, which is very important. The crux of understanding existence is to realize that existence consists of nature saturated in omnipotence. Omnipotence is satta, nature is prakriti, right? So saturation is sampriktata. So it says that existence is basically nature saturated in omnipotence. These two realities, that is nature and omnipotence, are found to be thoroughly intertwined, eternally inseparable, always manifest, and ever present. There is no method of separating nature from the omnipresent reality. There is no reason for separating these, nor is there separation possible. There is no point in imagining that which has no basis in existence. One can understand and evidence only that which has presence in existence. Existence itself is manifest in the form of four orders. So this is the fundamental thing that basically says that existence is in the form of coexistence of nature and uh, and omnipotence, that is satta, okay, or space in another words. So, one more paragraph which basically is saying that none of the human endeavors so far in the realms of idealism or materialism have succeeded in achieving the right understanding. The root cause of this is their not being able to understand that existence is in the form of coexistence. So, right, this is something which is very fundamental that is being said, that we talked about in the beginning of this presentation, that why he is calling his position, why he is positioning his presentation of Madhyas Darshan as Vikalp or the alternative. Okay, another thing that I want to remind is that the human being is the most developed unit in existence, both in terms of Jivan and in terms of body. Jivan uses the body as an instrument for the purpose of evidencing its own existence and its awakening. Jivan controls and keeps the body alive, but comes into delusion upon becoming identified with body. I think that is self-explanatory, but I thought I must read that. Okay. Good. There was this line was, yeah. So this was one thing which we read today, that Jivan has the inherent tendency to search continuously. Not just Jivan, this continuous search is present in the insentient atoms also, which itself is the cause of transformation in the physiochemical world. Everywhere in nature, there is a tendency to search for getting into the coexistential orderliness. this is very important thing, that the whole nature put together, all things on this earth and everywhere in this existence, the nature that is, that it has the tendency to get into the next state of order. Okay, so next state of coexistential order, and for which there is happening, there is a so there is a effort happening for getting into the next state of order. Okay, so this is something that is a, this is a very fundamental discovery of this darshan. There is a, that there is a tendency towards completeness, there is a drive towards completeness, and that is the whole reason why, how this nature emerges and gives successive results into successive forms of orders in the nature. Then he says that what does right understanding result into human beings? So he says that right understanding results in human beings achieving certain good qualities, right? And he enumerates that these are five qualities: the self confidence, respect for human excellence, balance in talent and personality, social in behavior, and self sustainability in occupation. So the education based on Madhya's darshan basically sets these as the goals, that this is what each student would get as a result of this education, or the education is meant to provide the abilities, the understanding with which the human being shall exhibit these qualities. Okay, so right. So I think with this we come to the end of uh, the this week's presentation. Next week, same time, it will be presented by Shri Pradeep Raman Charla Bhiya from Hyderabad. So, as you know, that he's from Triple IT Hyderabad, and he's the registrar over there. And the title of that chapter is the Constitution of Jeevan. So we will actually go in further depth on studying the Jeevan ki kriyaएं, or the activities of Jeevan and the way it is constituted. So thank you very much for joining the session of today. So we actually think this work is important, not just for the people who actually join in this online session, but for us to actually be taking this darshan to the English language. And for that, I think uh, to start this and to start speaking this thing in English is an important thing, because we feel that this darshan needs to be connected. This darshan needs to be bridged to the English speaking people. And these are making steps towards it. And we feel that we are making a good progress with the help of all of you. Thank you very much. Good night.